Roll call. So if you could just say present. Dr. Lee?
Present.
Mrs. Anderson?
Present.
Mr. Bruno?
Present.
Sorry, Mr. Steve. And Kelly present. Flag salute. So we are going to start a new process this month on the flag salute. In recognition of free speech and the following board item, we welcome all and would like to note that this saying the Pledge of Allegiance is not a requirement to participate in the business of this public board. If you do not say the pledge for religious, political, social, or personal reasons, you are most welcome here as an equal participant in the business of this public board. That said, if you'd like to join me, please rise. Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The motion to adopt the agenda.
All motion.
Ms. Bruno,
I'd like to pull item 1 from the
consent agenda.
consent agenda, please. Yes, thank you.
Separate consideration, okay. I also will be moving item 10B, action item 10B to the front of the agenda, but that doesn't really change anything. Just the order. We have a second on approving the agenda as amended, or do we have a motion? Moved, and I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Bruno, thank you so much. All right, with the agenda adopted, we can move on to the organizational reports. If we can have Vanessa Mason.
And I'm sad to report she was feeling not well today, so she will not be joining us today.
Oh, no. All right, then let's move right on to Marie Huggins. Please send her our well wishes.
Greetings. I wanted to bring your attention to consent agenda item number 4, which is the initial proposals for CSEA for our 21-22 school year for negotiations. And if you guys approve that tonight, we can begin negotiations tomorrow. So that's basically where we're at. We would like to be able to move forward. We do have a successor year this year. So we do have our contract being renewed for the next 3 years. And so we have a lot of work to do. So we'd appreciate your approval. And so we can get moving.
Is that basically what you call sunshiny? Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't see that term anywhere, but I was like, this is a sunshine, right?
Yeah, these are our sunshine proposals. So yes, we would appreciate your approval on those.
Any questions for Ms. Huggins?
That's all.
All right, thank you so much. Moving
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you, Mrs. Huggins. Thank you. Moving on to item 5, committee updates. We have a curriculum, instruction, and special education update from Mike Wood.
Good evening. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of what's going on in the curriculum instruction special ed venue. Health staff falls under us, so I want to give you a quick update of them as well. We just hired 3 new LVNs, licensed vocational nurses. They're assisting with our COVID testing. We are doing COVID testing at all sites and the district office for both students and staff. That brings us to a total of 11 health staff, so that we can cover all school sites, and 2 of those are registered nurses as well. So we are, I feel, fully staffed at this point. We do have enough supply of COVID tests to last us through the end of the semester. So we are literally sitting on boxes in my office, but we have plenty of those. In terms of curriculum instruction department, we did all students complete beginning of the school year the iReady diagnostic test for both reading and math. We've been disaggregating that data through our data culture committee with our not only our admin staff, but they've been going back and disaggregating that with their teaching staffs as well. We were using a protocol that we developed with the help of the Sacramento County Office of Education in order to do that disaggregation process. We're in the process of getting our new high school science materials. Those were ordered. Those have been coming in for the new adoption for both Center High School and McClellan. Those are getting out to the site. We currently, as of today, have 167 students enrolled in the independent study program. And just to give you an idea, normally we have about 30 in a normal year. So we're up to 167. It seems to be trickling in a little bit more each week, each day. Our current staff, normally we have one full-time independent study teacher. Right now, we actually have 5 full-time independent study teachers and 4 part-time teachers, including some retired staff that have come out to help us out. So we appreciate that. In terms of our social emotional learning, we have added 5 full-time social workers. Mr. Miranda and I meet with them on a weekly basis to kind of troubleshoot and welcome them to the district and just help them out getting acclimated to our school. They are working, doing groups as well as one-on-one counseling with students. In terms of our immediate office, we are welcoming Kira Jennings is coming to us from Oak Hill. As we move, we were sad to see Tina Duncan go, but wish her well as she goes to the business department. We are also doing Medi-Cal billing reimbursement training. We just did one with our social workers. Heather Perry's doing a fantastic job helping us out with that. Medi-Cal reimbursements are money that come back to the district for services that we provide to students. And Heather, again, gets a lot of credit for helping us out increase that tremendously. We just submitted the last part, addendum part of the CTAG application. That's a CTE grant that we've been working on. We've gotten actually for about the last 8-9 years. We are awaiting funding for that. That's going to help out our career tech programs throughout the entire district. We are also joined the K-12 Workforce Strong Grant as part of our consortium with SCOE. That's going to help us out again with our CT Career Tech Ed programs, mainly at the high school with that grant, but it is another grant which is a fantastic boost to our programs. We are right now currently looking at reviewing the single plans for student achievement, or the SIPSs, and the school accountability report cards that are coming into the district. Site admin are putting together, then we review those, go through those, and then present those to you. In terms of computer services, which is also part of the curriculum instruction department, they're adding wireless access points throughout all the school sites, trying to increase the wireless connectivity. Recently, they just went from 1 gigabyte to 10 gigabytes of bandwidth between the DO and Center High School. That probably means more to you than it does to me, but apparently that's great. I mean, that increases our speed and our ability to add more devices. We did hire an additional network person to help out, as well as Ron Bioni, who is in that spot now. So we have 2 of those. And we did hire a new computer tech who was going to help out at Center High School, and a new tech earlier in the year. It's going to help out at both Riles and McCall. With our special ed department, we added another full-time psychologist to our ERMS program. ERMS is the Educationally Related Mental Health Services. This is another full-time clinician that can help with is doing the counseling services with our students who are on an IEP and have this written into their IEPs. And then behavior services, we just added another BCBA, or a board certified behavior analyst, who is helping us out, joining our behavior team. And we are currently posting for 1 more to help us out also throughout the district. That's a whirlwind, but
Not much going on, huh?
Do you feel like you're juggling knives and chainsaws? You did.
Everybody is. I mean, it's everyone across the district is working hard.
Mr. Jordan, I just had a quick question. You did mention about the iReady diagnostics that are being administered. And I'm just thrilled to hear that we're looking at disaggregated data, you know, at the department levels and among the teachers. As a board member, are you planning to share the initial diagnostic results with us? Because I think it's really important for us to start looking at the data as a board so that we can act with intention to close any equity gaps that are appearing in the data.
Yes, correct. So normally I would bring the CAFS data And I'll bring that next meeting as well, just for the center high school, because that's all we take it. But during that presentation, we'll also do the iReady data, as well as our AP advanced placement data from center high.
Thank you so much.
A quick question.
Go ahead, Dan.
How's Mark? I haven't had an update lately.
He's hanging in there.
Bless his heart.
Slowly but surely, yes.
Is he home?
He is home, yes, yeah.
Good.
He's got one more potential, not potential, he's got one more surgery if things go well over the next couple of weeks, and then
I'll send him our thoughts and our prayers as well.
I
We're
appreciate
thinking
that.
about him.
Thank you. Sure, he appreciates that.
Thanks, Mike.
Another question, the disaggregated data that your team is reviewing, is that being done at the SEL meetings? And is that something I could continue to participate in?
It's actually being done on school site meetings, doing their collaboration days.
Ah,
But
okay.
I'm sure you could join in on.
Well, I just want to get back in the swing of those cell meetings and you know,
Absolutely,
be in the loop on that if I can.
absolutely.
Hopefully I can make it. Any questions? Great, thank you, Mr. Jordan.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Moving right along. So the next committee update is the facilities update by Richard Putnam.
Good evening, everybody. How are we doing tonight?
Thank you.
Alrighty, so as last stated, we're back more in just a maintenance kind of mode for the district, taking care of work orders that come in, but we did have a small break, and during that break, we were able to get 2 roofs repaired and covered over at UBC or at Center High School, 903 and 904. So we don't have a roof leak issue there anymore. We're also able over at Oak Hill, we had several places where the concrete had raised up, or was posing tripping hazards for students and staff. We're able to take out those 3 portions of concrete and get them re-poured so we do not have the tripping hazards that we had there. Right now, we have the staff getting sites as ready for winter as possible. Perfect timing considering that we're supposed to be getting some decent sized storms coming in. So the between maintenance and the grounds, they are going out and doing what prep work they can to help with that. On bigger news, we are still waiting patiently for our appraisal. The drop dead date for that is the 28th of October, so that's next Thursday. We're hoping it'll come in sooner, but we still don't know yet. And then with that being said, then that leads into our next, depending on the price of the purchase of the land, and then with the bond sale and other money still coming in, we may have to do a phased construction of the new school site, just because we cannot overstep our allocation of money and funds for what we signed a contract for. So we may have that coming. And then lastly, we will be starting the facilities committee meeting back up in January, because then we should be having with the school and other projects going to where it'll be worth everybody's time for us to have our facilities committee meeting.
Who was it that attends those that you're in Dell? When do we rotate those? Just in case.
I don't know.
The board can do that anytime. Originally, I think it was, they were gonna do like a year and then rotate, and so it's probably been about a year. So we could-
Let's just put it this way. If any of the rest of us are interested, just mention it and we will look at it at the next meeting.
The meetings are usually like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, so take that under consideration.
We'll, yeah. Just about. Anything else?
That is it for tonight.
Any
Any
questions?
questions? Thank you all for your
So
time.
very much.
Thank you.
All right, reports and presentations, don't blink on this one. The Williams Uniform Complaint Quarterly Reporting.
I'm pleased to report there were no Williams complaints.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo. Okay. Okay, comments from the audience regarding items not on the agenda. I'm going to just read this little statement real quickly. Anyone may address the board regarding any item that is within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. However, the board may not discuss or take any action on an item which is not on this agenda except as authorized by Government Code Section 5.954.2. A speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. We're lenient on that. Board Policy 9323, all public comments on items listed on this agenda will be heard at the time the board is discussing that item. So we do have a public comment by Mr. Steve Bush, if you'd like to come forward.
Thank you. I've been a resident since 1993. My children grew up and gone to school here. I didn't know where to turn to, but I thought this might be the proper place to elevate something that I'm looking out for my grandchildren. So first of all, thank you for your time. Thank you for your dedication and your service to the Century District. I have 2 grandchildren who are diagnosed with ASD and speech apraxia. One is 9 and the other is 7. Both attend North Country. They have been going to speech therapy and non-public agency for 6 and 4 years respectively, both excelling. Using this agency, the district and their parents, at one time, the district and their parents agreed to try using the district staff pathologist. Did not work out so well. It was less. They were getting less repetitions in speech therapy than they did at the non-public agency. I'm here because beginning of the school year, the boys have not received any speech. So we're going on 3 months now. And we're starting to notice a regression in their language. So as a grandfather, as a prior parent, there's a little bit of concern for us. The agency my grandchildren use decided not to go forward with the county's new requirement for a liability limit increase. So that means that the district is not able to contract with them through self-I believe and whatnot as far as the agreements go. But the district also tried to use another agency, the non-public agency that's outside the district that did have the insurance, but they had no room for them. And just recently on Monday, I received a call from staff, said that they would like to see if they could use a speech teacher who is presently at Oak Hill, and my kids go to North Country. So, and this would be after school hours, in which they're going to ask if this person could volunteer or whatever, give time after school hours to do speech therapy for 2 boys. So if we have to try that, we're willing to try that. But the Fender District AR 6159.2 discusses the use of non-public agencies under Education Code 56366. Under these codes, waivers can be requested. Single-use waivers can be requested and is enabled to receive the necessary special education needed for their development. I'm here tonight requesting this to be elevated to the appropriate level so that my grandchildren do not continue to suffer in their development stated in their IEPs. I'm requesting a waiver for a single contract because the liabilities limits don't come into play because we're requesting online speech therapy, which since the pandemic they've been doing, and it works out great. So again, thank you for your time, and I don't want to waste any more of it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other public comments? Any? Oh, for items not on the agenda. Yeah, thank you. And state your name, please, for the record.
Absolutely. James Anderson, parent of a student at Spinelli.
Thank you.
First, I just want to thank you all for all the hard work you do. I know it's a lot of work to be able to run a district and make sure everything works well. I wanted to express 2 concerns of some hot items that have been in the news, and I personally have concerns about. I apologize if this has come up previously, but vaccinations for children at elementary age, I know that that's not here yet, but it's on the horizon. I personally support the district or school if it comes to that, requiring that of students, if that becomes necessary. As another item, I want to be brief. Another item that has been coming up a lot in the news around the country is critical race theory. It's a hot topic item, I know. I personally am against teaching this within the elementary school environment. I feel like kids should learn to respect each other, not because of the color of their skin, but because of who they are. And I think that critical race theory is contradictory to that in nature, from what I understand. I know that currently it's not taught in the school that my kid is in, but in the future, if that is a consideration, I just want to put my opinion out there that I would hope that that would not take place in an elementary school environment. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you so
forward
much.
and sharing that with
Thank you.
us. We don't hear from parents on the positive side or ahead of time very much. It's good to hear.
Thank you. Just want to get ahead of it. Thank you so much.
It's nice to have you come forward. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments for items not on the agenda? Carol, this is her? Nothing from the online. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and move on. Board, I'm sorry?
Oh, yes, one just came in.
Oh, okay, good. Skated in.
Yeah. This is from Ashley. It says meal. There seems to be an issue with the school sites running out of lunch meals. How is the district addressing this issue so students aren't going without a meal?
Thank you so much for that comment. We will definitely have the district look into that and respond. We have your information. Thank you. We have your information. I'm sorry. It sounded so weird and creepy. All right, moving right along. Sorry. Item number 13, board and superintendent reports. And volunteers of who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno.
Just gonna keep this brief. I've heard quite a bit. Some people have reached out to me through email, through Facebook. And we've got a couple of public comments tonight, and there's quite a few people that showed up tonight. And I just want to say, first of all, to those who have sent me messages, emails, letters, whatever, I do read each and every one of those, even if I don't always respond in a timely manner. And for those who've shown up tonight, I really appreciate you guys being here. I love the feedback that we get because that helps us better represent you all. So thank you very much. Let's keep this going. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. And Mrs. Anderson, would you like to go next?
No, I'm just pleased to say that the school sites are running wonderfully. The COVID rate is way down and seems like we're got a handle on it.
Moving in the right direction, right? And Dr. Lee.
Yes, so welcome everyone there in the room and watching us digitally. I'm so glad we're able to continue having our meetings digital. I think there's so many more community members who are much more informed about the proceedings of this board, and that's a great thing. For almost a year now, I've sat in our board meetings where we continually hold up kindness and pat one another on the back about our fiscal wellness of the district. And that really seems to be a perpetual focus. And our focus on the fiscals over the physical human beings and human lives really shows in our draft heritage days and months that our board is working on. As the list changes and evolves, it really is demonstrating who and what we really are and what we're working overtime to protect in this district. That process really is highlighting a lack of understanding about the heritage months that are recommended by the California Department of Education. And so to clarify, this is the beautiful state of California. It's not the state of Pennsylvania. It's not the state of Rhode Island. And only the list of heritage months that we should be using is the one provided by the California Department of Education. As Gregory Freeland from the California Lutheran University explains, until we actually reach the point where all Americans value all of the groups that make up this country, cultural recognition days and months serve a purpose, and I couldn't agree with him more. Where this board's commitments lie really does show in its actions to preserve the status quo at all costs, and in its refusal to recognize that the world and this state is changing. And those glory days that we're reaching to, which never really existed, are over and they're not coming back. So since I started my tenure here on this board, I've really been appalled and disgusted at the number of times in open session, a certain trustee here on this board has made racist and/or homophobic comments. I have received complaints from community members about this. And most recently, following the utterances made at our September 22nd board meeting, I submitted to President Kelly and Superintendent Lair with documentation and direct references to dates and meetings wherein said trustee made indisputably racist and/or homophobic comments that myself and other board members and members of our public were made to listen to, and that it appears we condone by not acting to censure said individual. We keep excusing the behavior, and that excusing indicates a tacit agreement with the racist and homophobic comments. So let's be clear about that. President Kelly did opt not to agendize my request for censuring this trustee who has a pattern of making racist and homophobic utterances. And so now I am making my request public. I want my constituents to know that I hear you and I'm with you, but I'm really just one person on this board. If you want to make a difference, start showing up, acting up, and speaking up, and run for these positions when they come open. We have a couple of positions opening up in 2022, and that's really soon, and that gives me a lot of hope. If you are in need of help with the paperwork, to know how to navigate the process to register your candidacy for this board, please reach out to me. I will help you. This is because I believe that there are no neutral observers when bias, hate, and inequity are in the room. Please know that I do not agree, and I will not be silent about it. Hate has no place on our school board. Being passive and condoning hatred creates a hostile environment here on our school board. And I really think that we have different operational definitions of kindness working here on our school board. For me, to act to end the suffering of others is kindness. To be inclusive is to be kind. To celebrate diversity is kindness. To celebrate the achievements and contributions that marginalized groups have made to America by recognizing the Heritage Months suggested by the California Department of Education is kindness. To stand against racist statements is kindness. To stand against homophobia is kind. And a constant focus on how every fiscal and personnel resource we have is being used to address the persistent inequitable educational outcomes that are here in Center Joint Unified School District is to be kind. So that's my definition of kindness. I remain hopeful that we can work together to really codify what that means to be kind here in Center Joint Unified School District. And so with that, my next office hours are Monday, November 1st. You can access the Zoom link on the board website. I welcome any and all members of our center community to drop in 4 to 5 first Mondays, and I look forward to connecting with you all in between that time. Be safe and be well. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Glad you went before me. Happy to make my public comments now as well. First of all, I'm going to read to you the email that I responded to you 2 nights ago in response to your comments. First of all, no one is supporting anything racist or homophobic, and I'll thank you not to make insulting accusations. I texted asking you to call me. I called you. I emailed you twice, and you chose not to respond. If you try to make this about me refusing to put this on the agenda, it will immediately be about your refusal to speak with me. And it is now about that. You have refused to speak with me about it. You have no idea what I was going to say, what the conversation was going to be, and therefore you just made your assumptions that I'm condoning homophobic or racist behavior. And I resent that. I am very insulted by that, and I will not allow you to publicly defame me in that way.
period. Let me continue with my email that I read. You don't even know what I wanted to talk to you about. And so until you come off the offensive, which you've been on since day one, and have an adult conversation about our options, it will continue to be about your inability to have a discussion. That's my public comment. I do have some other things to say.
May I respond?
No, it is my public comment. We have options on paths to follow. Since you refuse to have that conversation with me in private, I will have that conversation here. I would like to discuss what those options are. I would like to discuss what has already happened and transpired in response to comments that were made. I am not condoning anything. And I would like to have a conversation with you about what our options are and what exactly our plan is for moving forward. If you refuse to have that conversation, it will continue to not be on the agenda because I will not know what exactly our plan is. Now, I would like to apologize. I've welcomed new employees, congratulated retirees every month since starting on the board again, and I neglected to do that last month. So let me go back and welcome our people from last month. So first of all, I would like to congratulate Laura Kraft, who was promoted to a school bus attendant, Yelena Lamova, promoted to a relief bus driver, Folly Fay, promoted to a health assistant, and Yosha Yang, who was promoted to an instructional specialist. We also have new hires, Alia Avina, Alicia Briney, Lauren Kane, Sarah Dean, Leah Edwards, Elia Irwin, Cynthia Jones, Valerie Kern, Gregory Orlov, Janelle Ramirez, Harlan Rogers, Dyson Schmidt. Those are our classified. And then, oops, let's scroll. Our certificated. Oh, wait a minute, did I talk about our retirements? Sorry, let me go back to the classified retirements. Congratulations to, oh, we didn't have any retirements. That would be why. Sorry about that. Okay, for our certificated, congratulations to Raymond Gagnon on his retirement. We have new hires, Reza Gavrilchik, who is a school nurse, and Ruslan Shantenko. Oh, I'm sorry if I murdered your name. Shantenko from McClellan High School. And then for this year, or this month, excuse me, we have several new people. We also have promotions for classified employees. We have Iris Arseniega, who's a bilingual assistant, Tina Duncan, account technician, Bianca Ismerio, cafeteria worker, new hires Adriana Chavez, Jeffrey Clement, Taylor Cook, Francesca Garibaldi, Latoya Jenkins, Madison Kleinheim, Selena Mayorga Quant, Karina Romero Gutierrez, Demario Russell, Elizabeth Valoria, Melinda White, and Tanya White. And then for certificated, we would like to welcome Catherine Cadereo at Center High School. So welcome. I do hope you enjoy your tenure here at Center Joint Unified. And if there's anything I can do to help you or answer any questions, I'm always available. Thank you. That's my report. Oh, we also did a CSD and delegate meeting this past month, and there will be some interesting notes coming out of that, which was kind of a compilation of various data coming out of the different districts in the northern area. Thank you. And Mr. Lear.
Yes, I just wanted to report here that since we had the October break, leading up to October break, I think it was very much needed. Folks seem to come back. I've had the opportunity to be at all school sites after the break and before break. And I just want to continue to congratulate our remarkable staff for their continued support for and of our students and of each other. I've seen it to be really nice. As it was pointed out, our COVID cases in district have come down a little bit, and that has really helped with the workload on all of our staff. I don't think by any means it's over. I think we need to stay vigilant, but I also believe that having fewer cases has very much helped with the running of our schools, which is a positive. Just to follow up to last month, the board had talked about restarting up our trainings with CSBA for our boardmanship. So I was able to speak with our trainer, Monica, early this week. She's meeting with her supervisor to talk about next steps for us as we develop a handbook with common norms. So I hope to have some more information on that in the coming weeks that we can do. The problem that she pointed out to me is we're looking with November, December, very busy months. She's heavily involved with the CSBA annual conference. So it may be the first of the year before we get on the books with her, but I will see what we can do to get that process moving. And then finally, just to alert the board, we do have a big batch of board policies coming forward. And so typically we would just put them in the regular agenda and you have a few days. We're going to get this batch to you guys significantly earlier. So hopefully by late this month or early November, we'll get it. And those will be for board policies that you will consider at the December meeting as a first reading. We want to give you enough time because it is overwhelming when you get 2 reams of paper to look at. So that way we can make sure that goes through. And then again, I just appreciate the work that everyone's doing and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Let's move on to the consent agenda. We'd like to approve the consent agenda with item 1 pool. Do we have a motion?
All motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Do we have a second?
A second.
Voting on the consent agenda without item number 1. Roll call vote, Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Bruno,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And for item number 1, we have a motion to approve or motion to bring it to the floor.
Motion to bring it to the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Discussion?
I did ask for this item to be pulled because there's a need for correction of the meeting notes. In business item A, I'm asking for the correction to be made to the notes to include that we agreed to focus on whittling down the voluminous heritage months and days that are recommended by the California Department of Education for recognition in California public schools. That was a major point in our discussion, and I feel that the omission of it from our meeting notes and the drafts that I've seen subsequently are really reflecting the need to note that that was a key point of our agreement. And I would like our meeting notes corrected to reflect this important component because that was the board giving direction to our superintendent of which list to use. I'm hoping that we can restore that to the notes.
Am I not going to get a chance to respond to her attack? There's a great things.
It's not agendized.
I mean, I have no problem with those corrections. That makes sense to me.
That's the correction can be made here, and then that's my responsibility. I think I put it out saying, hey, is there anything anyone to add? I had whittled it, for lack of a better word, down to just the CDE ones. I still have that original list I can share, and then Trustee Lee's correct. I did ask for other people to provide input, and so I can bring back the original list at the November meeting as we discussed.
As we discussed, yeah.
But I would like to be able to tweak that to what we have here at our school, what pertains to a student population here.
Agreed. All of that could be discussed at the November meeting when we've already agendized it. I think the only question right now that Dr. Lee has is just adjusting this to say that we've decided to pare down the list to just the heritage months.
Which
And
is
that is a relevant, very relevant piece of information that should be added to the meeting notes. So can we just go ahead and can we approve the notes with the anticipation of that revision, or do we need to wait and bring it back again?
if you're all good, we can approve it with the changes as presented, where we'd include that it was be brought down from the CDE list. So we can make that change, then you guys can approve it, and then we'll
I'll defer to Dr. Lee on that. If you want to bring it forward again, we can, or if you want to go ahead and approve it as amended, that we can do that.
I'd like to see that list before we.
The list is not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about amending the meeting notes to just say that that's what we had decided to do, was to pare down the list. This is just about the meeting notes, item 1 on the consent
Okay,
agenda.
good.
Yeah.
Before we're locked into that list, I'd like to see it.
You
That will
will,
be discussed
that will be
next
at the
month.
November agenda. Yes, at the November meeting, board meeting. Absolutely. Dr. Lee, did you want to approve it tonight or move it or defer it to 2 months? I mean.
If they could just, are they going to be providing us with the corrected minutes and so we can approve them at our next meeting?
Yeah, that would be
We can
perfect.
do that. So we
Yeah,
can, we'll
let's
make
do
the
that.
adjustment and then we'll just bring this group back with the adjustment for the, at the November meeting.
Okay, so
No
then the
problem.
motion on the table is to table the item and bring it forward at the November meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll
I'll make
second.
the motion. And roll call vote, Dr. Lee?
I'm sorry, I just wanted clarification of the motion. It was to correct the minutes, to
Correct the
state,
minutes
yes,
and
that
bring it
we're
forward in
using,
November. Correct, yes.
yes.
Sorry.
So, yes, I vote aye.
And Mrs. Anderson?
I,
And Mr. Broom?
Aye.
Chairman Tuck? It's item 1 has been tabled. All right, moving past the consent agenda, we have the business items. Business item A, and I apologize, I was going to bring business item B forward early and I did not do that, so I apologize, but I think we're doing okay. We're, as long as, yeah, we're doing fine. All right, so business item A, resolution 7/2021-22. Resolution of the Board of Trustees, Center Joint Unified School District authorizing the issuance and sale of its general obligation bonds, election of 2008 series 2021B in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed 42 million and approving certain other matters relating to the bonds. So I believe we need to bring this forward for discussion or approval. And then we have a presentation from Kushru. Is that
So,
correct?
so we actually, I was just going to say brief words, Kushru from CFW to say a few words. This is just the initial process to establish the process to issue the bonds. These are the documents that we need. So I was gonna have, last month, Kushru went over those with us, and this is that first step. This is not saying the board is authorizing it. This is just the first step. So I don't know if Mr. Kushru, if you'd mind saying a couple words and then,
Yeah, can we go ahead and make a motion to bring it to the floor?
I
Thank you,
will- I
Mr.
will
Bruno,
motion.
in a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Chiara, very pleased to be here this evening to give you a quick update. Yes, as Laura pointed out, we were here I was here at the last board meeting to indicate an opportunity. On that basis, given that there is going to be a need for funding for the new school that you're looking to construct. In order to begin the process, the documents presented to you tonight, if adopted, would allow us to begin the process. The long lead time components, there is the rating component that takes a little while to get the ratings approved. And also there's a Sacramento County component that Sacramento County actually has to approve a resolution, but they will not begin that process or they cannot undertake that process until you have approved your resolution initially. So the intent tonight is if the board were to adopt these documents, it would allow us to get going towards a bond sale. I know there's still some unknowns, there's still the dollar amounts to be determined. And we would come back to you at your November meeting. And at the November meeting, if the board is ready to make a decision at that point to provide direction, we would proceed with the bond sale. But Superintendent Laura is correct that there will be no the bond issuance. This allows us to begin the process. And we will not issue any bonds until we come back to you in November or a future meeting for the direction from the board.
Are we gonna have to go back to New York or San Francisco or something for that?
typically nowadays they do it virtually. So we've done it a couple times where it's Zoom. In the past, I have personally gone to San Francisco, but no, we would just work with the rating agencies over Zoom or Teams.
I just remember, I think Ray went one time and Dan Reason and.
Very Anderson. It used to be initially in New York and then in San Francisco. And now it's virtual and it may come back to meeting in person. but a rating interview, your staff will be interviewed by the rating analysts as part of the bond issuance process.
What are the interest rates running right now?
So we're hoping just under 3 or just about 3, right around 3% for a 30-year loan is what we're hoping, which is near historical lows, not quite the historical lows, but interest rates at one time were in the double digits. So
Well, I know last time you did very, very well.
yes, we did. Okay, last time I think the interest rates were actually even slightly better, but we'll still be, while we may not be at historic lows, okay, interest rates are rising. So if the board does decide to issue this, we'll get to work very quickly on that one. But we anticipate being right around 3%, which once again would be a great deal for your community because it lowers the cost of having to repay the loan.
Do we know the credit rating that they're
We're going to
still
be,
way up there?
we're going to have a very strong credit rating. There's a concern because everything that's within the control of the district, you folks have done a great job on, but there is some uncertainty with future funding and. So the analysts will be looking at that, but I think we can mitigate it by saying this district is being run pragmatically. You put some thought into how you manage your finances. You need money to educate kids. And so I think we're going to come out okay. I think we're going to have a strong rating. But I always go into the rating process taking it very seriously because any change in rating downwards, which I do not think will happen, would in turn impact our interest rates and rise our interest rates and the cost of the community. So we'll spend some time working with your staff. Your staff has always been very generous with their time to work on preparing for the interview. We have a prepared presentation. The presentation is delivered, and there's usually some questions and answers that go in. And then the analysts work on it internally for about a week, and then they come back with the rating. So
It's been a great partnership. You guys have done a great job for us.
super. Thank you.
Thank God you know how to give bonds for dummies, right?
I wouldn't tell you that, but yes.
Okay, do we have any other questions for? Sure. All right, so we need a motion to approve the resolution. Do we have- Oh, okay, public comment. Thank you, Steve. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
A motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. A second.
Second,
Dr. Lee, thank you. Not sure which was first. All right, roll call vote. Dr. Lee,
aye.
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Bruno,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Resolution A has been passed, or actually, item A has been passed. Thank you, Commissioners. Have a
Drive
safe trip
safely.
back to the day. All right, resolution number, item B, resolution number 6, 2021, resolution continuing Board of Trustees authority to hold virtual meetings pursuant to AB 361. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Newsom signed AB 361 into law, permitting public agencies to continue conducting meetings remotely. The Board of Trustees will need to adopt a resolution to allow meetings to remain virtually or remotely for 30 days. So each month, we will be required to have new findings that justify conducting the meetings virtually, and a new, not necessarily resolution, but we will use a resolution to confirm those findings. That's our plan anyway. So do we have a motion to approve?
Like to make a motion that we don't approve.
Well, then don't make a motion. That's
You want to do?
My motion to bring this to the floor for discussion.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Do we
I'm
have a
sorry, I
second?
missed it.
He's made a motion to bring it to the floor for discussion. We have a second?
My feeling is that if
Wait,
we're-
Nancy? we
I
need a
second.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Okay, now,
my feeling is that if we're gonna require our teachers and staff to be here every day, then I think our board should be here as well. I just see no reason why meetings can't be attended. We've taken every precaution there is to take without some reason, some reason by a doctor or something that there's an issue. Board meetings should be attended.
I respectfully disagree. We're in the midst of a pandemic, and I think allowing people the choice to attend virtually helps reduce risk. I think it's made great strides in connecting with the community, and I think it's been more positive than negative, and I think it's good to continue.
So I'm going to agree with Mr. Bruno on this one. We just had in the last 24 hours, another 156 deaths in California. Many of our cases are breakthrough cases. A large number of those hospitalized are still people who've been fully immunized. Colin Powell recently passed. He was fully vaccinated.
So I have Parkinson's.
And other people may have comorbidities that they don't need to share. It's none of our business. May just be that they don't want to get sick and die. And I empathize with that. And our students have the ability to participate remotely. If they choose to, they can do independent study. And I just don't see any reason why we would require someone to risk their life when it's completely unnecessary. The meetings are being conducted just fine
Additionally,
I would
virtually.
like, make sure this gets put in the minutes, Carol, that my disagreement is because we require all teachers and staff to be here every day. And I don't think the board is any better than our employees.
I don't either.
I do think that that is a good point.
I agree with you on that.
But just as a reminder, 2 months ago, I was able to attend the meeting virtually while having COVID. And it's still, in my opinion, very fresh and.
But right, you had a reason. You had a medical reason. Why?
Right, but this allows us to have that option available.
Right.
But to just not come to every meeting is something different.
But if we don't pass the resolution, then I wouldn't have been able to attend virtually for that meeting, medical reason or not. And my choices would have been to show up and expose everybody or completely sit out the meeting. Or attend virtually while posting my address and all of that. I just think that while we're still in the midst of a pandemic, it makes sense to allow.
We can still do everything the same. We can still have virtual meetings.
And the other thing is, Nancy, is that we're not making that decision that teachers have to come to school. That's being mandated by what's being allowed statewide by the state mandates. Am I incorrect in that? I mean, there are mandates in place that are saying school needs to be in person.
Correct. I think if I'm understanding your question, yes, the priority of the state of California is to have school in person. They do provide the option for distance learning for families that want to choose that. I don't know if I'm answering your question right, but.
Right.
And aren't a number of our teachers, who do have health concerns and that don't want to risk their lives to continue teaching, aren't they allowed the option to teach in that distance learning program if that is their situation, Superintendent Lair?
We have some independent study staff that are doing that. Yes, there are not as many as we once had, but we do have some folks that could possibly choose that option.
Yeah, and I just want to show appreciation because I agree with the sentiment that, no one should have to risk their life to make someone else feel comfortable that they're sitting in the room with them in the middle of a pandemic. And I think that's a truly inhumane suggestion.
I mean,
That's not the point. The point is leadership.
I get what you're saying, Mrs. Anderson. We should lead by example. The teachers are required to be here. We should be here. But we only know about ourselves, right? We only know what we feel. I feel that I should be here for that reason. I've been vaccinated. I have comorbidities. I am at higher risk, but I'm making the choice to be here, but that's my choice to make. And,
Trustee Kelly,
I just think that there's no reason to require it if we don't have to.
one other piece, this conversation seems to be revolving around board members. It also is, the reason was enacted also was for audience.
Right.
So the mode at which we're able to have public comment, that it is, so it's twofold, that people can participate with that. So just,
So if
we went
we-
through a training again this morning, and Carol just.
So
looked
if
over
we
my-
don't pass this resolution, people cannot participate virtually. They have to be here.
You
They
would-
would have to physically be here, so
We-
that to me
We
is-
will continue to, we will continue to stream all of our meetings going forward.
Right.
But as far as public participation, would be in the meeting.
They wouldn't be able to
Correct.
submit comments. They
Correct.
have to be here in person. to-
We've been advised that if you,
Participate.
once you go away from that, you need to stick with that process, but streaming, videoing to the community, I think we've all seen that as a huge win for informing more people. I mean, we look at our streaming numbers, to have 50 people look at our meeting, we didn't have 50 people typically watching our meeting, in person here, so
Right.
definitely.
I also,
Than what I had understood previously, so.
yeah. And I also want to say, Nancy, I will disagree with you that we should lead by example and that being in the room really does make for better interaction. I understand that and I agree with that. I just think that the risk of the pandemic outweigh that. And now the idea that the public cannot participate virtually if we don't pass this resolution, I'm sorry, I just think that
Okay, that's
outweighs it. I don't disagree with you at all.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point, but excuse me, as President Kelly said, I think the risks of the current situation outweigh that.
Okay, and that was the one issue that hit me, is that we're requiring others to do it, then we should be.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's good food for thought.
So just before you guys vote, I would like to say, so what the law does require is every 30 days. We did get some advice. So you basically, the board would keep certifying. So what we got advised today in our training was do it by resolution. I know CSBA said you can do it by fact finding. Our attorney said it's just cleaner to have it in writing. The board approves it.
How
And
are we
then,
gonna confirm fact finding without doing a resolution?
Well, I
It
know.
just is silly.
and then the second piece to that is, and we're getting the detail on some of our meetings, because we meet once a month, do go beyond the 30 days. So we're double checking, but it sounds like what they said is if you go like the 32 days in between, that first item on your agenda needs to be that new resolution certifying that. For some reason, if the board turned that resolution down, then we would have to possibly stop the meeting. So just want to put that out. I'll get more details on that, but that was something we learned today, because before we thought we might schedule a special meeting to recertify, but they did say there is some ways to work for boards that meet that way. So just for food for thought.
And I realize we're ready for vote, or I think we are, but let me just, for those of you who are wondering what these findings are, each month we have to have 3 findings that confirm why we're continuing. So the 3 findings are, number 1, there was a proclaimed state of emergency. State or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, which really should say physical distancing. 2, there is a proclaimed state of emergency and the local agency's meeting is for the purpose of determining by majority vote whether as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present eminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. Or number 3, there is a proclaimed state of emergency and the local agency has determined by majority vote that as a result of the emergency, meeting in person present would present an imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. So I think having this room crowded with attendees would definitely create an imminent risk. Do we have a motion to approve?
I will motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Do we have a second?
Second,
And roll call vote, Dr. Lee,
aye.
Mrs. Anderson? No. Mr. Bruno?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution is passed 3-1. Moving on to item number C. K-12 vaccination mandate. This is a discussion item, not an action item. On October 1, 2021, the state of California announced that all students at public, charter, and private K-12 schools in California will be required to be vaccinated for COVID-19 starting the school term following the full FDA approval of the vaccine for their grade span. The CJUSD Board of Trustees requested a discussion-only item to be included on our October agenda. Included as informational backup material for this discussion is an overview of the proposed regulation by Sacramento County Public Health, and additionally, an overview of the release from the state of California. We have a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Discussion?
Do we have any public comments, Madam President?
Start with public comments.
Mrs. Hunt? Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
so the only thing I was gonna actually took it, Kelly, was I wanted to just, in the packet, the board, I did have a copy of a summary from our Sacramento County Public Health Officer. And in there, we've received a few questions from folks about it, like the when, the why. So I would point people to that for kind of a synopsis of the process. Some of the things would be is, when does this start? One thing is we don't know when the state's going to mandate. It depends on when the FDA would approve the vaccine based on the conditions that are outlined by the governor's mandate here. We do know it starts with 7/12. Once that would be FDA approved for students in that age span, then within the following semester, the mandate would go into effect. That would be, they're saying it's likely around July 1 if the FDA approves things. As far as a timeline for our TK6 students, I don't think there is any timeline that anyone's willing to share quite yet that I've heard. The governor also stated with his proclamation that we would also, staff would fall into that. Right now, we're under a mandate for staff to either be vaccinated or tested weekly. This proclamation would roll students and staff into the same, that all would be vaccinated. And then the other interesting piece is, since this is a regulation by the governor, there are some exemptions for medical and also for personal belief. If the legislature takes action, then possibly they could remove some of the personal beliefs. There always seems to be a medical exemption for the vaccines that we have required currently. There is a medical exemption that could be filed for a family through their doctor. So that's what we know today. The one thing also we know is the Sacramento County Public Health is not going to accelerate the timeline for that. Some other districts statewide have accelerated their timeline. And at this point of conversations with our staff, we would not recommend that the board consider accelerating the timeline, because there's so many variables within that we would rather see a wait and see with it through the mandate.
Yeah, and just important to note that that's full FDA approval. So that means not the emergency use that we've been operating under most of this year. We've only just recently gotten full approval for adult use, 16 and over, for Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J. So, we're nowhere near getting full approval for the 7 to 12 at this point, as far as I know. And
Yeah,
we don't
just-
even know when the K through, the younger children are even going to be allowed to.
Wasn't
Wait.
Pfizer, didn't Pfizer get full approval for, no, not for,
Not for 12 to 16, but for adults.
right. My mistake.
No, sorry. Any other comments?
I have a question for Superintendent Lair, or maybe Mr. Grimes. I saw an email to all staff that was about the COVID weekly testing deadline, and I just wanted a point of clarification. It says, if you are unsure how, when, or where to receive your weekly COVID-19 vaccine, please email me directly and we will be able to assist you. Are we requiring as a district that people get weekly COVID-19 vaccines? Or is that a new requirement? Or I just I wasn't sure about that.
It's a typo, and
So they're not getting weekly vaccines, okay.
They are not. I don't
Weekly
think anyone,
testing.
no, weekly testing is
Weekly
vaccine.
testing if they're
Sorry.
not vaccinated.
Thank you.
She's like,
Thank you. I was really concerned on that one.
Yeah, no.
I didn't even catch that.
All right, so we
It
have a
seems
motion.
like the requirements just keep changing so much. I just didn't know if that slipped in somehow there.
It did not. It slipped in as a typo, so.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Oh, sorry, public comment. Come on.
Let's do the public comments.
Yep.
Hello, my name is Sarah King. I am a fully credentialed teacher who has been teaching art at Wilson C. Rallis for 3 years, along with experience of teaching K through 6th grade art at Rockland Unified School District. I'm AVID certified and I've led after school activities for multiple years for my students. I consider myself to be a very valuable staff member for all of my students. In the classroom, I teach my students to be in charge of their own bodies while encouraging diversity, inclusion, and equity for all students, including those with medical disabilities and those with various religious beliefs. The Department of Education defines inclusion in early childhood programs as including children with disabilities in early school settings together with their peers without disabilities. As the Biden-Harris administration has explained, the term equity means a consistent and systematic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who are underserved communities and that have been denied such treatment, and members of religious minorities. I am calling for the board to apply these concepts that have been pushed so heavily into education for years by putting inclusion, diversity, and most importantly, equity in the front of their minds when making decisions with regard to the COVID-19 health orders. The hypocrisy of telling a child from a young age that no one but them is in charge of their own body, then requiring all students to follow an order that takes away their right to choose what goes into their bodies or their right to a free and fair education is unacceptable. The reason for declining to abide by a vaccine or testing orders is not the Department of Health or the district's business at all, and is a fundamental civil right. However, many are choosing to disclose the reasons they are declining, which include valid medical and sincerely held beliefs as the reasons. Yet these individuals continue to be discriminated against and threatened with unpaid leave and or independent study as the only alternative to these orders of getting vaccinated or weekly testing. These are not fair or equitable solutions proposed, and Center Joint Unified students, parents, and staff deserve much better. Students and staff of historically marginalized ethnic groups will suffer disproportionately from forcing independent study and unpaid leave as the only alternative to vaccination and testing. According to a publication by ASPE, I provided this to you in the email that I sent you. It shows in the graph that the majority of people opting to not get vaccinated are from these historically marginalized groups. And I strive every day to provide my students with choices that will allow them to become motivated lifelong learners. Center Joint Unified has an obligation to give these students and staff members equitable options when it comes to public school access and their own physical health choices. Alternative options such as social distancing, voluntary testing options, symptom checks, sanitized stations, HVAC replacements, and outdoor classes will prove to be measures Center Joint Unified can take to equitably keep all students and staff in the classroom safely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You dropped your answer. All right. Do we have any more public comments? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosemary. I am a mother of a student that is currently at Center. I've had all 4 of my children go through every single Oak Hill, Wilson, Center, and to hear of the vaccination mandate, of course, it's alarming and upsetting. There were comments made that kind of, I completely echo her sentiment. I am not an educator. I had a hard time helping my son with his 504 plan, ADHD, everything that he has going on. It was very difficult during the distance learning. My son struggled tremendously. My son also had COVID, got sick, just fine. 2 of my other 4 children, 3 of my 4 children had COVID, got sick like a cold, and healed just fine. They continue to be okay. I know that's not the same for everyone. I do know, however, that the numbers of people that are dying, even though every single death matters, absolutely, it is a tragedy, is small compared to those that thrive and survive after this illness. So a comment that you made, Kelly, you had mentioned when you guys were discussing the continuing to allow the virtual sessions you guys have, that to require someone to risk their life when it's not necessary. Yeah, exactly that. You also had mentioned that a lot of the people that are suffering and dying currently have been fully vaccinated.
Not a lot, a very small percentage.
A very small percentage of just now, more and more people are getting vaccinated. So this thing is shifting and changing, and that's very understood and well respected. But to see someone's actual immune system do its job is a beautiful thing as well. So to comment on what she had said about, yes, these students that already have a hard time, it is going to affect them if they then have to homeschool. My son said, I don't want to get vaccinated, but I'm also very afraid of going back to virtual learning. I struggled and I don't want to go through that again. To hear the actual distress in my son's voice is just disheartening. And I just want it to be understood that parents and educators are saying, we're vocalizing to you, and I know I'm not alone because I've reached out to my Antelope community. There are several of us who feel this way. This should be something that is absolutely, I appreciate this, that we can come in and talk to you all like this. I actually want to continue to come because this is something very near and dear to my heart. And I think that every aspect should be considered. I know that there's a lot of fear and I understand that. I also believe that there should be a lot more hope. A lot more people are getting vaccinated. Those who want to absolutely should. Those who do not should not have to. It is my child's body. And he has already shown that he can thrive. You said the numbers are low and they're in school. The numbers are low and they're in school already. There's things that we can do. There's more and more education that we can share. I just really hope that you guys take some serious consideration when you all decide what you want to do on this. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
It's going to be a state mandate. It's not going to be something you decide.
Unfortunately, I mean, although I don't necessarily agree with your perspective, I respect your perspective. And I understand that, you feel it should be a choice. I understand herd immunity and that the community is, my belief is that the community needs to be protected over the individual, right? But what I believe and what you believe probably isn't going to make a difference, because if it's mandated, that's like saying, the laws for the health department mandates for how a restaurant runs their business are optional, and they're not.
Ms. Kelly,
They're not optional.
Ms. Kelly, you just stated that it's my choice to choose, and now you're saying that if it's mandated, you have no choice.
No, I said I respect your perspective that it's your right to choose. I understand that, but we're not going to be given a choice.
I don't think it should be different for board members when they're talking about approving or disapproving being here in person versus students who come into classrooms in person. Like it goes for you too. You just said it's my choice to choose. Now let our students and let our staff choose as well.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you is that, what I'm saying is that we're not going to have a choice. We as a board don't get to decide. If it's a mandate, it's a mandate. That means it's a law and we have to follow it.
It's not
A mandate is not a law.
It's not a law.
A mandate is not a law.
But if we don't follow it, then we are liable, and that
Then you
means
won't
that
get
we are not being
That's what it comes
we are
down to.
not being responsible as stewards of this district if we leave our district open to liability like that. It's not something we can do.
We should probably hear all the public comments before we.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Discussion.
Is the district going to put something in place? I agree with these women right here. I think it should be the my body, my choice, my children, if this passes and it does mandate. Unfortunately, my son is a sophomore right now at center. I have a daughter who goes to Oak Hill who's in kindergarten. And unfortunately, when that mandate comes, unless we can do something to stop it, I have to pull my children out because I will not put them through that. My question for you is, is the board,
I'm sorry, can you please approach the podium and
I'm
introduce
really
yourself?
loud, so I might be loud.
Let's just do the recording so that people can hear you.
Yes, so my question is, there are a lot of people that feel the same, such as myself and these women right here. Is the board putting together something, not just for independent study, if we end up not having a choice and having to pull our children out? Are there gonna be processes in place? Because I think you're going to be really surprised when you see a huge influx of children being pulled from school. Because there's a bigger crowd of parents who are not okay with this than there are who are willing to vaccinate their kids.
I mean, we will do whatever we're allowed to do and whatever we're capable of doing to serve all the students of this district.
And I respect that.
Whatever
Does that
we
mean
can
you're
do.
gonna have something in place? Are there going to be emails that are going out to parents who need to learn how to do the independent study? Because I understand we have until July, and I'm assuming that you guys are going to be working on plans for those parents who don't want to fail their kids with the education system, but will not put them through that.
Yeah.
We absolutely would, yeah. If that comes down to it, we don't know that drop dead time yet, but absolutely, we would work with curriculum instruction and capitalize on the program we have for our families, because we do have that obligation and duty, and we do understand that.
Okay,
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Holly?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I was dismayed today when I put in the zip code searcher. And I put Antelope and Alberta as the two zip codes. 55% has been vaccinated for those two zip codes.
Did we have any more public comments?
I have one that's from Sarah. I'm assuming you.
That
don't-
was me.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you don't want that
I'm
one, right?
good.
Okay.
Sorry, I ran through it really quickly.
You were fine. Okay, so this one is from Osamo. Vaccination mandate. When/how do parents need to start applying for an exemption for their child, medical or personal? Next is from concerned parent. When the mandate is set in place for the vaccine, how will parents submit personal belief exemptions? And from concerned parent, will the district take responsibility for any and all medical reactions to the experimental COVID-19 vaccine if it is mandated? That's all I have.
Okay, so regarding those questions, do you have information on what the exemption process would be?
So right now, there is two processes. There would be a medical exemption and then a personal belief. And so that's something we're working on. We know the state or our local attorneys, things would help us with that process. But right now, we don't even have the date of mandate, but we would absolutely have those available for folks if that's permissible. Just as we do right now for the current vaccines, we have the medical exemption process that we would go through.
And that's, we don't know what's gonna happen at this point. We don't know if they're gonna mandate it. We don't know, although he did require it, but that could change by the time FDA approval comes around, and then personal exemption could change. It could get more lenient or it could get more restrictive.
And so it really depends. The governor's proclamation is one thing that has to have that personal belief exemption. My understanding is if it becomes through a legislative action, just as they have some other of the vaccines that we give there as a medical exemption, that's it. I don't know of anything going through the legislature right now, but to be honest, I haven't pulled through their book to see. Rumor on the street was people might take a wait and see approach from the legislature, but again, that's hearsay through the groups that I connect with.
Okay, I have some comments that I'd like to make on this topic. First of all, I'd like to stress to everybody that this is a discussion only topic. The board is not taking any action on this tonight, so don't worry about that. Now, personally, just to share my status, I'm fully vaccinated. I haven't yet received a booster, but I will probably be doing that within the next few weeks. The vaccine did hit me hard both times. Not nearly as hard as COVID did when I got that as a breakthrough. That was one of the worst illnesses I've ever had in my life. It completely knocked me out for 2 weeks, and it was a relatively mild case. I get tested almost every single week. Have to do the rapid test right now because the PCR test when you've had COVID in the last 90 days, it comes back as vague, essentially. The data shows that the vaccine is safe for most people and is effective for most people. But the reality is there are some people, and some of whom I know personally, that have had bad reactions to it. I'm a strong believer in bodily autonomy. And as much as I think that the vaccine is generally a good idea, I stop being so comfortable when I'm telling somebody else what they have to do. I have a student at Center who just recently got their first vaccine dose, and I was advising that they get vaccinated sooner, but it's not my body, it's not my choice. So I gave access to information, and eventually they decided that they wanted to get vaccinated. So we went ahead and did that. As far as mandating it, I honestly, while I think that the vaccine is a good idea for most people, I'm just not comfortable with making that determination for others. One concern that I have is right now, there is the personal belief exemption. And I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. But if you guys want to hang on to that, I encourage you to not only be involved with our meetings, contact the legislature and let them know you want that to remain. Because frankly, I don't think this is likely going to be the decision of anybody in this room. I think this decision is going to happen at the state level, and we're going to be told what we have to do. And then we're just going to have to make the best of that situation. Now, one question I have, and I don't know if anyone has any guess on this, do we know what the anticipated change to independent study numbers would be if vaccines do become mandated?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know that. I would suspect they would, I don't know, Mr. Byrne, any thought you had? I mean, I know they will go up, I just don't know.
Okay. At the other district where I work, surprisingly, at their recent board meeting on this topic, there were quite a few parents saying that they look forward to a vaccine mandate because they'd be more comfortable pulling their kids out of independent study and returning to the classroom. That was not what I anticipated at all. So yeah, I do encourage people, if it's safe for you, to get the vaccine, but ultimately, that's between you and your doctor. And I don't feel comfortable putting myself in between that.
I just want to add on a comment to what Trustee Bruno had to say, and just strongly encourage the parents who are in the room and who are watching, who are expressing their concerns, to really direct those concerns to the people who are making the decisions that we then as a school board have to follow. I know, for example, that our governor has stated that this will take place once it's authorized. And just so that those watching know, there's going to be an independent advisory committee meeting of the FDA coming up on October 26th. CDC's independent advisory committee is meeting on November 2nd and November 3rd. If you are someone who wants to access and use a personal belief exemption or a medical exemption, get in contact with our California legislature. We have folks sitting there, such as Richard Pan, who are committed to removing those items. And if those are removed, then we really will have no recourse for our people who have personal belief exemptions, and potentially it might even impact those under medical exemptions. So if you're someone who might be affected or might want to access that portion, of those exemptions, please start reaching out to the legislature, reach out to the folks who are making the decisions. From what I've heard, it might be within a few weeks that we have FDA approval, and then things are going to probably roll pretty quickly from the rhetoric that I'm hearing.
Any other comments? Yes.
James Anderson, parent. I'd just like to appreciate all the comments that have been said on this topic. I can totally respect both sides of the equation. I know there's some uncertainty about how parents feel in general as a population. I was wondering if the district or the board has considered doing a survey like has been done in the past, because I found that to be very helpful, having those numbers, knowing how other parents think. We did a few of those surveys back in the middle of the worst of the pandemic last year. And I found that very helpful and comforting as a parent to know that percentage of how everyone felt. So I'm just wondering if, and this is completely rhetorical, but just wondering if that's something that's been considered and could be implemented as an option to understand the district's parent opinions.
I think that's a great idea. I think you were reading my mind.
To those parents in the room, do you find those surveys helpful?
Yeah.
Or are you tired of getting them?
I think they're helpful if people are actually reading them. So if we're filling them out and they're being utilized and the school is really taking them seriously, I find them convenient.
Okay, sometimes we wonder if you're just getting tired of, the constant surveys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another comment that I wanted to make on this, before the governor, before he made his
Proclamation.
Edict.
Or whatever. Edict.
The question came before us because a grand jury had asked us to weigh in on it about, whether or not we wanted to do a vaccine mandate. That really got me thinking. And the biggest thing for me is what we are doing personally as a district with separating students, requiring masks, doing the regular testing and making things available. It seems to be working. And frankly, I think the approach of educating people about the benefits of the vaccine, rather than telling people they must get it, would probably be more effective.
Any other comments? More comments. Thank you, Mrs. Hunt.
This one is from Mr. Informed Consent. Personal belief exceptions. What is the criteria for a personal belief exemption? What religions will be recognized? Will the personal belief in the science of natural herd immunity be recognized? If the mandate goes through before the FDA approval, will the board accept the civil liability of enforcing a vaccine that is still under review by the FDA?
So my understanding is that the mandate is that once they receive full FDA approval, then it goes into effect. Is that
The
not?
following
The
semester.
following semester,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
my
we that would not be.
Yeah.
That would not even be an option for us. We wouldn't be able to approve something. Well, although what Mr. Lear was saying is that some counties are accelerating, but they're not accelerating beyond having full FDA approval, right?
Some school districts are.
I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but I certainly would not. I'll tell you, my opinion is that I would not do that, no. And then what was the other part of his question? I'm sorry, Carol.
I think we should.
What religions or personal
Yeah,
beliefs would be
we
accepted?
don't know what the requirements will be for exemptions,
Not
right?
yet.
We'll just have to wait and see what they tell us.
Standard personal belief exemption, can they simply say, I don't believe in it?
That is.
Yeah, that's what we did at Natomas before they eliminated those. It was
That's
just
my understanding.
fill out the form and that's that. Any other comments?
I actually have one more.
By all means.
I agree with what you said about educating those who are on the fence or who do want to do it, educating them and making that available. I would also ask then that those of us who feel the opposite, if the same information can be provided to us somehow via the website, whatever, Center Unified, of what we can do once that information is divulged to you all, once you guys know what's going on, if we could be informed, that would be great, because I would like, you know, to also consider everybody else who feels the way that us concerned parents do to be absolutely considered, because I don't know, we're kind of letting fear win here a lot, and it's hurting a lot of people and our choices and our children's choices, and it's very confusing for them. They're already going through an awful lot. This is affecting everybody psychologically and emotionally, and so that's why I appreciated when he was talking about the increase in hiring people for mental wellness. That's beautiful, because that will continue. If children are told that in order to go to school, in order to see your friends, in order to have a social life as a young developing child, the things that come when you are social and you're around your peers that you can't get at home, when they're told you have the choice between that or getting a shot in your arm to continue to do that, that's a hard choice for a child. And I really hope that that's definitely considered, because you all are adults and you made that choice on your own. These children, this is a very big choice for them. They lean on us. They lean on you all. They lean on adults. So just please make sure that we're informed of what we can do as well. It does absolutely go both ways. Thank you.
I want to say one more thing too. So as you guys know, I'm staff here at Riles, and I think that this whole pandemic has been very hard on educators as well. And we've been kind of adjusting as we've gone throughout this entire pandemic. And we've been open to things like screening questions. We've been open to things like social distancing. We've been open to things like remote learning. But now I feel like we're facing an ultimatums of vaccination. And this is not acceptable for anyone, including students.
Any more comments? Oh, please come forward. If you could please just state your name.
Hi, I was just sitting and waiting for my ride. But my name's Pamela Grimes, and I am a medical assistant. I work on staff as a health assistant here. One of my jobs is I track the vaccinations that have already been given, that are already required as students begin school and as they come into our district. And there's a lot of reasons why people decide one way or another on this issue, and I'm not even going to address those. But I just have to say that there is a medical value to protecting our lives through vaccination. I think of whether or not you think this vaccination is ready, that's something else I'm not even going to get into. But I think about the vaccines, the deadly diseases that 150 years ago, every family lost children over. We're talking about diphtheria and polio, whooping cough, all those terrible things that now are virtually not part of our life. And so I just want to say, be careful. Don't let the heated political gunk that's going on stop you from trying to find out what is good health-wise, and just be aware of that. And that's all I want to say. Thanks.
It really is, it strikes me that this is just like any other childhood vaccine, except for it's being started up politically rather than the chickenpox and, polio that they get when they're infants. Those are all mandated vaccines.
I understand the concern about it being fairly new, I also understand that
I do.
they've given millions and millions and millions, well, billions of these vaccines.
It was
So they
right.
have
And I
the data.
understand that part of
But
it.
they do flu vaccines every single year. This technology's been around since since the twenties, I believe, when they created the measles vaccine using the same RNA technology. The technology's been around for ages, and they know what they're doing, and they tested it, and they collected data on literally billions of people. So, I mean, but that's my opinion. I mean, that's my perspective. I completely understand people being concerned about it being new. Go ahead, I'll shut up now.
You're fine. I do respect hearing other people's opinions. Like, I don't get frustrated. I think it's great, and I think it's great when people hear us. I think one of my frustrations in general overall is how everybody keeps comparing it to other vaccines. My kids are fully vaccinated with other stuff. I'm not anti-vax or whatever you want to call it. That's not my problem. My kids got the flu shots every year. Not my problem. My problem is this one has not been studied enough in people so you can tell me in 5 years, is my child going to have problems? Is my child gonna develop?
5 years hasn't transpired, and my husband
Right, and
pointed that out to me.
I think that's a lot of parents' concern, like the MMRs, everything else that they have been, chickenpox is gone, but it's been like 20, 30, however long, I gotta take this off, I'm sorry, however long it's been since those vaccines have been out. Parents are more comfortable, for lack of a word, because they've been studied more. Chickenpox is gone because they've been able to tweak it, do whatever they do in their labs. I'm not a scientist, I don't know any of that, to be able to perfect it, for lack of a better word, to where it works. People are now getting 1 shot, 2 shots, booster shots, because they're still trying to figure out things. People do get sick. There are people who get contraindications or have issues across the board. It doesn't matter what it is. But I think it frustrates me as a parent because I do believe in vaccines, but this specific one has not been around long enough for them to tell us what type of long-term effects and issues it could have on our child.
That's part I understand. I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but I also know that we also don't know the same thing about COVID. We don't know what's gonna happen to people with long COVID or who 5 years from now who had it and recovered. We don't know those effects either. So it's just a decision, right? It's a decision that you should be able to make, and I respect that. So, more comments? All right.
Again, from Mr. Informed Consent. And this is a comment regarding a survey. It says, the survey, I would like to fill out a survey that the school board will listen to. Last time I filled out a survey, it was 52% that we wanted the students to go back to in-person school. The 49% was allowed to get in contact and sway the board via email after the vote. While the vote had the majority, we were forced to keep our kids home. Will this happen again? And the next one is also from Mr. Informed Consent, and it says history. At no time in history have the people forcing others into compliance been the good guys. As educators, you should think of this.
Right. Any other comments, responses, discussion? Right, so this is not a discussion item, so we can go ahead and move on to item D. California School Board Association Equity Network Training. Trustee Lee has requested that the board discuss and consider participating in the California School Boards Association CSBA Equity Network Training. The details of the program are included in the documentation for this item. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion bring it to the floor.
Well, again, when we move to approve, it's the same as bringing it to the floor. It will bring it to the floor. But if you don't want to move to approve, you can move to bring it to the floor.
Nancy moved to bring it to the floor, and I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I thought you were.
I just wanted to know if this was something that you had time to do or wanted to do, or what are your thoughts on it?
Well,
Since it would include you.
yeah, so one member would be me and then 2 board members is what they do. I saw the schedule, it's fine with me. In fact, thank you, Trustee Lee, for working with CSBA because we did not have any dates. We thought we had dates in October, and then finally we do have some for spring. I think it's a Saturday a month, February through April, for 3 hours, I believe it is. The cost to the district's about $3,000, I believe, but it would be 2 board members committing and myself. As I look through it, I find it very interesting. I think it would be worth the time, as long as we have 2 board members that would be also interested in joining it. I'm assuming trustee Lee, since you brought this up, you were interested. So if we,
And you know I'm interested if no one else is, so, I mean, I don't wanna take up all the oxygen, but
and it seems like the guiding principles are that group, the 2 members, and then myself would bring back the information to the full board. So you guys are also clued in, whoever cannot make it.
okay, surgery, have fun. No, I think that, you know, we all are aware that changes are among us. Changes are happening. There is an awareness, an awakening in our culture. And I know that people of color, people who have been marginalized, have been dealing with these oppressive situations. That it didn't end with Lincoln declaring slavery over. It didn't end with civil rights. It didn't end with them being able to vote. None of that has ended the oppressive society oppressing what they consider to be a lesser part of our community. And the fact that we all went through an educational system that whitewashed that and eliminated that from our education is tragic. And it's also an awareness that we need to have that people don't know just how tragic things are. They don't know that entire communities were burnt down because they were being too successful, or that people were medically tested on, or that lynchings were an everyday occurrence in the South for long past civil rights, or the end of slavery. So these kind of things we're not taught in school, and that's wrong. But again, we're not taught in school. So I mean, I've lived most of my life believing what my parents told me, which is that, oh, all people are equal. Everyone's equal. Well, that is a lie, because people are not being treated equally. So how can they be equal if they're not being treated equally? And I think that there is an awareness that we are lacking in our entire society, that we have to jump off the cliff and say, hey, I'm part of this. I'm part of the solution. And equity training is definitely something we all need to take.
So I'm hearing.
I mean, that's,
I'm just,
sorry.
I guess, so.
Was there any doubt what I meant?
Yeah, I know, I'm just teasing. So what we'll do is, Dr. Lee, I didn't go there, but I don't think there's signups yet, but we'll put it on our tickler to look for the signups. And if the board's okay with it, we'll participate, and I will sign up with trustee Kelly and trustee Lee. And then we will bring that information back as we do. The session this time was canceled for lack of, I think it was a busy time this time of year.
It was too short of notice. We didn't know
And so
about it soon enough.
I think the fall semester, it was, people were busy, so we'll put it in our tickler, we'll watch for it. If one of you see it too, please clue us in, but we can go there.
Well, now that I know where my CSBA emails are all going,
True.
I will be aware of them.
So do we need to do a motion to approve this for him to move forward?
I would say we need a motion. Yeah.
Okay, then I will make that motion.
All right.
I'll
Thank you,
second
Mr. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Roll call vote. Oh, is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Dr. Lee.
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. No, I don't even know. Stop. Just kidding.
No chance.
Sorry, I got a little impassioned there. What can I say? Item E, ESSER 3 expenditure plan, the LEAs, that's local educational agencies, that's us, that receive elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, that's called ESSER funds, elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds under the American Rescue Plan Act, are required to develop a plan for how they will use the ESSER 3 funds to address students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, as well as any opportunity gaps that existed before and were worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. I believe we need to bring this to the floor for discussion or make a motion to approve. to be moved? Someone? The action is to approve the expenditure plan, but we need a motion.
All motion
Move to approve,
yes.
to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have discussion?
The only thing I would share is just as an overview, one of the commitments as we've received and continue to receive ESSER funding or what we so happily call COVID money, because there's about 10 different pots that come in. One of the missions that we've had is to try to create some sustained supports for our families and students, not just what I would like to say is like one and done. And so I have to start first by complimenting Lisa Coronado and her staff in the business office for navigating the timelines and requirements for each of these to allow us to achieve a more long-term solution to help our students. And so the plan before you, wait for the garbage truck, I guess. The plan before you is a required plan the state has in place. I hope it's not a tow truck. But so with those funds, one of the systems that we wanted was to make sure that it was continued to support, and we realized by bringing in the academic, the social emotional supports, that we knew the effects from the COVID, the 18 months we were away would be longer than just a year. So our plan takes us out through a 3-year plan. This is similar to what I shared with you in our ELOP, the Expanded Learning Opportunity Plan. But to give you an overview, the things as we worked with our DLACs, our DACs, our advisory committees, it kept coming back to within the requirements of what these funds would allow us to do would be to create safe in-person learning was what the goal within that, and then also academic and social emotional supports. So within this plan for the safe in-person learning, we have a facility supervisor now that helps us order and maintain all of our PPE, training custodial staff, address ventilation needs. We added additional health techs through this plan. So we have a health tech at each site and actually some roving ones because we found one at each site wasn't enough because of the volume of testing we were doing. In addition, it includes $2 million in upgrades to HVAC. Going further down that, just to highlight the academic impacts and social supports, it provided for 4 extra teachers for ELA and math at Center High School and Wilson Riles to lower class size at both of those core subjects. We brought in 8 elementary intervention teachers and 5 elementary instructional specialists to support our students and start addressing some of the gaps. Independent studies, because independent study option did come up, we have that as a part of it, so we can provide that safe environment for families that choose not to send their students to school. We also have a student and family engagement administrator and 2 assistants who I think it's next month or December, we'll bring back. He's going to give you an overview of the work he's doing with families to help engage them back in our school because there are still some problems that families are facing, and we want to make sure that that is addressed and supported through the district. Our social workers, we've added 4 social workers, elementary counselor, intervention counselors, and as I talk to all the sites, those social emotional counselors and social workers they're earning every dollar. They are busy individuals on our site. So it was great that we were able, and I'll credit Mr. Jordan for working hard to get those folks on every single site. Further, we have the intervention counselor, teacher on assignment to support our digital technology teaching and learning, because we're still trying to support the independent study. Kids are going out for quarantine, so we're trying to support that piece. And then increasing office hours for our student and family support services, which is our Old Family Resource Center, which Ryan Miranda will be sharing a little bit more next month about from there. So with that, our plan with this is to continue to provide those supports that we have in place and not have them at the end of the year drop off. So that's kind of the overview. And if there's questions or anything else, but it's a required plan that we submit to the state. It just outlines the spending expenditures, and then Ms. Coronado does the beautiful job of trying to come back and talk about how that money was spent and account for all of it.
So is this chiseled in stone or is this flexible?
I believe that there is some flexibility within it, but right now, these are most of the things that we're currently have in place that will allow us to carry out. There are a couple spots that we don't have filled. For example, we hired PE instructors at every elementary site, so we could have specialists. We also brought in music, and right now we have 1 of the 4 music positions filled, so we're still trying to fill more because we know from a social emotional aspect, giving the kids options is a very helpful thing. And North Country is the one who was able to hire someone. They've seen some really positive benefits to starting up a band. In fact, Mr. Farrell just sent me, the kids were doing a song, which is kind of fun to see in here. So anyway, that's our plan. Once approved, we would then take it back to submit to the state, and then any adjustments we would make along the way.
Do you have any questions or comments?
I'd just like to echo what Superintendent Lair said. Thank you very much, Lisa. I was just reading a news report about some other districts losing out on funds because they didn't, they're not allocating them within the time frame and everything. And it just made me really appreciate how much you do and how well you do your job. So
Thank you. And this credit goes to Tammy Jabali because she writes the plan. I just provide the dollar amounts to go with the idea.
Thank you.
You and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you, David Jabali. And
So with that, we would seek your approval.
all right, any other comments, questions, any public comment? I think that was a no. Roll call vote, Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno,
Hi.
Chair votes aye. And the resolution is passed. Okay, advanced planning, future meeting dates, the next meeting, regular meeting.
President Kelly,
Yes,
I'd like to make a statement real quick before you move on to that.
you bet.
I was attacked earlier in the meeting, and I'm gonna hold most of my comments to a later date. But I just want to say that the charges made against me were completely untrue. I'm not a racist. You can ask my Black brother-in-law, he'd be more than happy to stand up for me. I'm not a homophobic. I think the community knows that from my past actions. I think the problem has laid with Lee from the way she entered the board, the way she has attacked people all along. And that's why I stood up and fought to the people that couldn't stand up for themselves because they're at-will employees and they didn't feel like they could. And it made me so angry that every time somebody spoke to her, she would come back and attack them just to keep them quiet. I don't do business that way and I don't expect anybody else to. The employees that she attacked would leave here in tears. That's what got us off to a bad start. Our meetings used to be wonderful meetings. Nobody, even though we would disagree, nobody would be angry with each other. We would leave here
Trustee Anderson,
happy people.
this is not an item on the agenda, and we really shouldn't.
I'm
be-
sorry.
This is not an item on the agenda, and we really
No,
shouldn't. be
I'm
discussing.
addressing the comment she made to me
And
about.
just to clarify, I
No, I'm
didn't
not
make a
getting into
statement
this.
about
No, you had your
any
chance.
board member. I did not
So
state
we will
anyone's
address
name.
this issue
And so
at a later time.
It's just your conscience speaking. That's what we're hearing.
Conversation is out of order. Mrs. Anderson, I appreciate what you're trying to say, but Mr. Bruno is correct. This is not agendized. We will have an opportunity to discuss this at a future meeting.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to advanced planning. Future meeting dates, the regular meeting is Wednesday, November 17 at 6 o'clock here in this room. Everyone is welcome to attend virtually and in person. Since we passed that resolution, do we have any suggested agenda items?
Just the last meeting, the board did ask to have a Family Resource Center, and due to Ryan Miranda in that department, we asked him to move November. He was likely going to be out possibly in December. And so he's going to be next month as well. And then we will also be bringing forward the heritage conversation as requested at the previous meeting. And I'll make sure that list is based off the CDE list because I have that original one as well. So I just want to point out that the last thing too was one of the things I think I shared with the board in the communication is we are looking at a different room for our facility, a bigger room that's more airy. We seem to be kind of growing out of this room. So hopefully by 2022, we will have the opportunity to be in a better facility for us. So I think that will be good and work with allow us to continue live stream and things like that.
And I was wondering, Dr. Lee, did you want to ask to bring forward the disaggregated data you were referring to earlier?
Yes, thank you. I would like to hear about our pre-diagnostic, assessments for iReady, and to have that disaggregated data shared with us, hopefully, disaggregated by race, gender, ELL status, all of the different categories that we're supposed to be looking at.
Absolutely. And Mr. Jordan, was that in December or November that you were planning to bring that forward?
Or
I can do it in November, or you, is
I
it?
think we have
agenda
a
packed?
lot on the
That-
agenda.
that,
for
Is that okay?
November.
Okay,
Yeah,
December.
so
So
maybe December
I'll put a
would be
note
fine,
that we'll
or
bring
even-
it, I'll put it on my tickler for December. And we might even have by then a second round of iReady data to show. too.
Yeah, we do.
So that'll be good. We'll get a comparative, because right now the comparative data is from the end of last year.
Okay. Any other suggested agenda items? And the chair will entertain a motion. Motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
We have a second.
Second?
Okay. Meeting is adjourned.
All right. Good night.